Alright, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be breaking down the MLB slate for Sunday, April 9th. Now we've got 9 games on today's main slate. There are 15 games. There are games all day. The games start at 1 o'clock and then they end at 8 o'clock with Sunday Night Baseball. But on the DraftKings main slate, there are only going to be 9 games that go from 1:10 to 2:15 in with the Cincinnati, St. Louis. So we're just going to be focusing on those 9 games. Like I always do, I do focus on the main slates. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I'm going to do what I always do and just give you guys some pitchers that I like and then some value hitters that I like at each position. And if there are always any stud hitters that I think you need to have in your lineups, I'll be sure to touch on those. But like I always do, I'm going to be giving out value hitters and then some pitchers that I like. So starting off at pitcher, I definitely like Stephen Strasburg today if you want to pay up. Pitching against the Phillies are not a very good hitting team. I really like Strasburg as well at just 10-6. That's pretty cheap for him. He didn't look very solid, though, in his first game against Miami. He only had 18 DraftKings points, but I definitely think he can bounce back today against the Phillies. They are not a very good hitting team. They do struggle against righties, so I really like Stephen Strasburg if you want to pay up. I definitely think he is one of the top pitchers on the slate. I also do like Carlos Martínez pitching at home against Cincinnati. The Reds are not a good hitting team as well, and they will be getting a huge park downgrade going from the Great American Ballpark to St. Louis. The Cardinals ballpark does not favor hitters. Not very many home runs are hit there. So I really like Carmart as well if you want to pay up. I'm not a big fan of his price tag at $10K, but he did look very sharp in his first game coming out against the Cubs. He had 32 DraftKings points, which is crazy that he did that well against the Cubs. The Cubs are just such a good hitting team. And I definitely think he can do very well again today against the Reds. They're not a very good hitting team. They do struggle against righties, and they will be downgraded in parks. I really like Carmart if you want to pay up for him. I definitely think he is in play even at $10K. One guy that's catching my eye on DraftKings just being too cheap is Jake Arrieta going up against Milwaukee. Now, obviously, this is a hitter's park that does favor hitters. Miller Park does favor hitters, like I said. A lot of home runs are hit there. But I really like Arrieta today at just 9-6. That is dirt cheap for him. And he did look pretty solid in his first game out against the Cardinals. He had 25 DraftKings points. His price was 10-4 on opening day, and it dropped to 9-6. And this is a way better matchup going up against the Brewers. They're not nearly as good as the Cardinals are. I really like Arrieta today. He's probably going to be the pitcher that I target, especially on DraftKings where he's just 9,600. That seems dirt cheap for him. The Brewers do struggle against righties. I expect Arrieta to do very well today. And I expect the Cubs to give him some run support. I think it's very likely he's able to get a win and get you those 4 extra DraftKings points that are always helpful. So I really like Arrieta today. He's definitely going to be the pitcher that I target, especially on DraftKings where he's just 9,600. That just seems way too cheap for him. And if you need some SP2s for DraftKings, I do like Garrett Cole today, pitching at home against the Braves. Now, Cole didn't look very good in his first game out against Boston. He only had half a DraftKings point, which is pretty disgusting, but that was against Boston, and Boston is obviously a very good hitting team. And Cole will be getting a very good matchup pitching at home against the Braves. The Braves are the worst team in the league, and although they do hit righties pretty well, I still like Cole today, even at 8,100. I think it's a good chance he's able to get a win today and get you those 4 extra DraftKings points. I think Cole can get you 20 DK points today. Even though the Braves don't really strike out, I definitely think he has a very good chance to get a win. And the Braves don't really score him very many runs. So I do like Garrett Cole. If you need an SP2 specifically for DraftKings, I would target him even at 8,100. I think he is in play. Jake Odorizzi is one guy I want to mention. If you believe in PVB, you might want to target Odorizzi on 132 at-bats against the Blue Jays. The Jays have only had 182 against Odorizzi, so they have struggled against him. And the Blue Jays have not looked good this year. They have struggled lately. And Odorizzi will be pitching at home in Tampa Bay. Tropicana Field does favor hitters, so I definitely think you can target him today at 7,800. He didn't look very good in his first outing against the Yankees, but he has pitched well against the Blue Jays, so that's always a plus. If you believe in PVB, then you might want to target Odorizzi. And the Blue Jays have not looked good this year either, so I think he is worth a look even at 7,800. If you need an SP2, I do like him. And yeah, those are some pitchers that I like on this slate. If you want to pay up today, I'm really liking Strasburg, Martínez, and Arrieta. I think those are the studs that you want to pay up for. And if you need some SP2s, specifically for DraftKings, you can definitely target Garrett Cole and Jake Odorizzi. Odorizzi has done well against the Blue Jays in his career, so he is worth a look as well for SP2s. And yeah, those are some pitchers that I like today. Let's go ahead and move on to catcher. Alright, so some value catchers that I like. I do like Wellington Castillo today going up against CC Sabathia. Castillo will be getting the platoon split advantage going up against a lefty. And Sabathia is not a very good pitcher. He does give up his fair share of home runs. And I really like Castillo today playing at home in Baltimore. That ballpark does favor hitters, and Castillo has a ton of power. He could definitely go deep today off Sabathia. I really like him. If you need some value at catcher, I think he's worth a look at just 3,600. And from his last game out against the Yankees, his price was 3,900, and it dropped to 3,600. And he does get a good matchup today going up against Sabathia. Castillo will be getting the platoon split, so you can target him at 3,600 if you need some value at catcher. Some more value plays that I like. Definitely like Matt Wieters today going up against Jeremy Hellickson. Hellickson is a righty, and Wieters will be batting from his left side today, and he does bat a lot better from his left than he does from his right. So you can definitely target him at just 3,100. The only thing I don't like about Wieters is he does bat towards the bottom of the order, but he has looked very solid this year. On the 4 games out as a national this year, he's put up 5, 17, 4, and 7 DraftKings points, which is pretty solid for that price tag. You can definitely target him today at just 3,100 if you need some value at catcher. I think he's a pretty solid value play with that price tag. And another value play that I like for 100 less is Salvador Perez going up against Lance McCullers. Now, McCullers is a pretty solid pitcher, but I'm really intrigued by Perez's price tag at just $3K. That just seems way too cheap for him. His price just continues to drop. And playing in Houston, I really like this ballpark. It does favor hitters, and Perez has already shown off his power this year. He's already homered twice this year. You can definitely target him at just $3K if you need some value at catcher. He does have a ton of pop. He definitely has a chance to go deep. McCullers will give up his fair share of home runs. So I do like Salvador Perez. If you need some value at catcher, you can definitely target him with that cheap price tag. And yeah, those are some value plays that I like at catcher. Let's go and move on to first base. All right, so some value first baseman that I like. One guy that's catching my eyes just being too cheap is Freddie Freeman at just 4,300. Going up against Garrett Cole, Freeman will get the platoon split advantage going up against a righty. And I really like him at that price tag at just 4,300. I think that makes him a pretty solid value play. His price just seems way too cheap. And going up against the righty, I definitely think Freeman is going to do well today. He hasn't looked that solid this year. In 4 games this year, he's put up 14, 2, 0, and 5 DraftKings points. But I really like him to get you double-digit DK points today. I definitely think he has a chance to go deep against Cole. Although Cole is a pretty solid pitcher, he will give up his fair share of home runs. So I definitely like Freddie Freeman, just 4,300. I think that price tag makes him a pretty solid value play. Another guy that I like is just being too cheap is Matt Carpenter at just 4,100 going against Scott Feldman. Feldman is also a righty, so Carpenter will be getting the platoon split. And although Carpenter hasn't looked well this year, he just seems way too cheap. In his last 4 games, he's put up 5, 0, 7, and 2 DraftKings points. So Carpenter hasn't been that good hasn't been on top of his game this year, but at 4,100, I think that makes him a very solid play at that price tag. And especially going up against Feldman. Feldman is not a good pitcher. He will struggle, and I really like Carpenter today. He does bat towards the top of the order, which is always a plus. And he does have pretty good upside as well. Carpenter does have a little bit of speed. And if he gets on base, he will steal a couple bases. So I definitely think you can target him for some value at just 4,100. That price just seems way too cheap for him. I think that makes him a pretty solid value play. And one more value play that I like at 3,500 is Eric Hosmer going up against Lance McCullers. Now, like I already mentioned, McCullers is a pretty solid pitcher, but I really like Hosmer today playing in Houston. Like I already mentioned, that ballpark does favor hitters, and Hosmer just seems way too cheap at 3,500. Although he hasn't been that solid this year, his price just continues to drop, and I think he is worth the look at that price tag. And going up against the righty today, Hosmer will be getting the platoon split advantage, so I think you can target him at just 3,500. I think that price tag makes him a pretty solid value play, so I do like Eric Hosmer. If you need some value at first base, I would definitely target him. And yeah, those are some first baseman value plays that I like. Let's go ahead and move on to second base. Alright, some second baseman value plays that I like. I'm really liking Starlin Castro today at just 3,900, going up against Wade Miley. Miley is a lefty, and Castro does bat right-handed, so this is going to be a plus platoon split advantage for Castro. And Miley is also not a good pitcher. He will give up his fair share of home runs. I really like Castro today playing in Baltimore. That ballpark does favor hitters. A lot of home runs are hit there in Baltimore. I definitely like Castro if you need some value at second base. It just seems way too cheap at 3,900 given this matchup against Miley. I definitely think Miley is going to struggle today, so if you want to stack the Yankees, I would not have a problem with that. I think the Yankee stack is going to be pretty popular today. So I do like Starlin Castro. If you need some value at second base, you can definitely target him at just 3,900. And a couple more second baseman value plays that I like. One guy that's catching my eyes just being too cheap today is Odubel Herrera going up against Steven Strasburg. Now, obviously, this isn't a good matchup going up against Strasburg, but Herrera just seems too cheap at 3,700. He has been killing it this year. In the 4 games this year, he's put up 9, 8, 12, and 10 DraftKings points, which is pretty solid. That's pretty consistent. I definitely think you can target Herrera today at just 3,700. He will get the platoon split advantage going up against a righty and going up against Strasburg. And like I said, this matchup isn't that ideal, but Herrera doesn't really need much to hit value. He does have pretty good speed. All he needs to do is get a walk and steal a couple bases, and he's return value like that. And he does have a little bit of power as well. He can definitely take Strasburg deep. I definitely think you can target Abdul Herrera today. People are probably going to be scared away when they see him going up against Strasburg, but at 3,700, I definitely think that makes him a pretty solid value play at that price tag. And another guy I like for value for 100 less is Dustin Pedroia today going up against Daniel Norris. Pedroia just seems way too cheap as well at just 3,600. Pedroia has also been pretty consistent this year. On 3 games out, he's put up 7, 5, and 6 DraftKings points, which is pretty solid. That's pretty consistent. I definitely think you can target him today going up against Norris. Norris is a lefty, and Pedroia will be getting the platoon split advantage. And Norris is also not that good of a pitcher, so I definitely think you can target Dustin Pedroia today at just 3,600. He does bat towards the top of the order, which is always a plus. He should get at least 4 to 5 at-bats. I definitely think the Red Sox are going to be able to score a lot of runs today. You can definitely target Dustin Pedroia today at just 3,600. I think he makes a pretty solid value play at second base with that price tag. And yeah, there's some second basemen that I like for value. Let's go and move on to third base. Alright, so some third basemen that I like today. There is one stud here that I definitely think you might want to try and pay up for today, and that is Daniel Murphy going up against Jeremy Hellickson. I really like Murphy today at just 4,500. Going up against Hellickson, I definitely think Murph has a chance to go deep. Hellickson does give up a ton of hard contact, and he will give up his fair share of home runs. And Murphy crushes righties as well. So he is definitely going to be a guy I target on the slate if I'm looking to pay up for a top hitter. I think he's a guy you want to target. He's been off to a pretty hot start this year. And there's 4 games, in the Nationals 4 games this year. Murph has had 8, 10, 6, and 25 DraftKings points. So he has already got off to a hot start. I could see him doing very well today against Hellickson. Hellickson does struggle against lefties, and Murph crushes righties. So I'm really liking Daniel Murphy today. If I'm going to pay up for a hitter, he would definitely be a guy I target. And then some value plays that I like at third base. One guy that I'm really liking today is Jonathan Schoop at just 3,700 going up against CC Sabathia. Sabathia will struggle today, and the Orioles have a ton of righties that can crush him, and I definitely think Schoop could be a guy that goes deep today. Sabathia will give up his fair share of home runs, and playing in Baltimore, I really like this ballpark for the hitters. I definitely think you can target Schoop on this slate at just 3,700. That is pretty cheap for him, and especially going up against Sabathia, I definitely think Schoop has a chance to go deep. Sabathia does give up a lot of home runs, so I really like him. If you need some value at third base, you can definitely target him at just 3,700. I think stacking the Orioles today is going to be pretty popular, so I really like Schoop, especially if you're going to stack the Orioles. You might want to include him in that stack. And then a couple more value plays that I like. One guy I like, if you're not going to play Jake Arrieta, then you can definitely target Travis Shaw today at just 3,300. Now, obviously, going up against Arrieta is not a very plus matchup, but Shaw has just been on a very hot start this year. In the 4 games with the Brewers this year, he's put up 16, 16, 4, and 7 DraftKings points. And his price just continues to drop. Obviously, this matchup is terrible, but I really like Shaw at just 3,300. He will get the platoon split advantage going against the righty. Now, obviously, Arrieta is not your average right-hander, but I still like Shaw today at that cheap price tag, and especially playing at home in Miller Park. He could do well today. So if you need some value, I think he is worth a look. If you're not going to play Arrieta today, you might want to target him at just 3,300. And another guy that I like at that price tag is Ryan Zimmerman going up against Jeremy Hellickson. Zimmerman has also been off to a pretty hot start this year. In the 4 games the Knights have played this year, Ryan Zimmerman's had 6, 18, 19, and 3 DraftKings points. So he's already shown off his power this year. He's already went deep twice. He could definitely go deep again today going up against Hellickson. Hellickson will give up a ton of home runs. So I really like Ryan Zimmerman as well if you need some value at third base. He definitely has a chance to go deep today. Like I said, Hellickson will give up a ton of home runs. So I really like him as well if you need some value. Just 3,300, you can definitely target him at that cheap price tag. With the way he's been playing this year, I really like him at that price. So I do like Ryan Zimmerman. If you need some value at third base, you can definitely target him as well. And yeah, those are some value third basemen that I like. Let's go ahead and move on to shortstop. Alright, some value shortstops that I like today. I'm really liking Aledmus Diaz at just 3,900 going up against Scott Feldman. Like I already mentioned earlier, Feldman is not a very good pitcher. And I really like Diaz today at just 3,900. That seems way too cheap for him. He has been a little up and down this year. On his 4 games this year, he's put up 18, 0, 12, and 0 DraftKings points. But he has definitely shown off his upside, getting double digits twice in his last 4 games. I definitely think you can target him today going up against Feldman. Like I already said, Feldman is not a good pitcher. I definitely think if you want to stack the Cardinals today, I would not have a problem with that. I'm really liking him and Matt Carpenter from the Cardinals. I think both of them are going to do very well today. And I really like Diaz at that cheap price tag. So if you need some value at shortstop, I think he is worth a look at just $3,900. That just seems way too cheap for him. Also at that same price tag, I really like Addison Russell going up against Zach Davies. This game is going to be played in Miller Park, which does favor hitters. A ton of home runs are hit there in Miller Park. I definitely think you can target Russell today going up against Davies. Davies will give up his fair share of home runs. And I really like Russell's price tag at just $3,900. He has been a little inconsistent this year. In his first 4 games, he put up 3, 7, 4, and 3 DraftKings points. But at just $3,900, you're only going to need about 6 to 8 DraftKings points for him to return value on that cheap price tag. And he could definitely do that today against Davies. Davies will struggle. So I do like Addison Russell as well. If you need some value at shortstop, I definitely think you could target him at just $3,900. That just seems way too cheap for him. And another value play I like at just $3,500 is Troy Tulowitzki going up against Jake Odorizzi. Tulo was off to a pretty slow start this year, but he did pick it up in his last game against Tampa Bay, putting up 27 DraftKings points. And I did mention him as a value play that day. If you look at my last video, I did recommend playing Tulo on that day, so I hope you guys listened. But yeah, I definitely think you can target Tulo again today going up against Odorizzi. His price did drop from $3,800 to $3,500, which is just even better. He just seems way too cheap to begin with. And obviously, Tropicana Field doesn't really favor hitters, but Tulo has already shown he can succeed in that ballpark. Their last game against Tampa Bay was played in Tampa Bay, and Tulo had 27 DraftKings points, so you can definitely target him. Odorizzi's not that good of a pitcher, so I like Tulo, just $3,500. He just seems way too cheap. He has broken out of his slump, so I like him. If you need some value at shortstop, you can target him. And yeah, there's some shortstop value plays that I like. Let's go and move on to outfield. Alright, some value outfielders I'm liking today. I'm really liking Adam Eaton at just $4K going up against Jeremy Hellickson. Like I already mentioned, I think the Washington Nationals are going to be a pretty popular stack today. I definitely think Hellickson is going to struggle. And I really like Adam Eaton today at just $4K. He just seems way too cheap. He has gotten off to a very hot start this year with the Nats. On his 4 games with the Nats, he's put up 16, 11, 14, and 16 DraftKings points. So he has been very consistent lately. I definitely think you can target him today. Going up against Hellickson, Eaton will get the platoon split advantage going up against a righty. And Eaton also does have a ton of upside. He does have speed. If he gets on base, he will steal. And he does have a little bit of power as well. So Eaton can really pretty much do it all. You can definitely target him if you need some value. He just seems way too cheap at 4K. I really like him. Another guy that I like that just seems too cheap is Billy Hamilton going up against Carlos Martinez. I know obviously this isn't a good matchup going up against Carmart. Carmart is a pretty solid pitcher. But Hamilton just seems way too cheap at $3,600. His price did drop from $4K down to $3,600, which is a pretty big decrease. And he has been really good this year. On his 4 games this year, he's put up 10, 7, 6, and 13 DraftKings points. And you know Hamilton's one of the fastest players in the league. If he gets, all he has to do is get a walk and steal a base, and he's returned value just like that. And he will also be batting from his left side today, which he does bat a lot better from. I definitely think you can target Billy Hamilton today, even going up against Carmart. I think he is worth a look at just $3,600. All he has to do is get walked and steal a couple bases, and he's returned value. And I could definitely see him doing that today, so I do like Billy Hamilton. Just $3,600. I definitely think you can target him at that cheap price tag. And another value outfielder that I'm liking today is another Royal, and that's Alex Gordon going up against Lance McCullers. Gordon just seems way too cheap at $3,300. His price in his last game against Houston was $3,700, and it dropped to $3,300. Although Gordon has been a little inconsistent this year, he did look pretty good in his last game against Houston, putting up 14 DraftKings points. And Gordon will also be getting the platoon split advantage going against the righty and McCullers. I definitely think you can target him at that cheap price tag of just $3,300. Gordon does lead off, which is always a plus. He should get at least 4 to 5 at-bats. And playing in Houston, I really like this ballpark upgrade for the Royals. I definitely think you can target Gordon today at just $3,300. That price tag makes him a pretty solid play. Even though he's going up against McCullers, and I know McCullers is a pretty solid pitcher, he will struggle. And McCullers will give up his fair share of home runs. So I do like Alex Gordon at just $3,300. You can play him at that cheap price tag. And yeah, there's some value outfitters that I like today. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some of my favorite plays for today's slate. Alright guys, so this is half of my lineup filled out for today's slate. I did fill it out with my favorite pitcher, along with some of my favorite value hitters, and my favorite stud hitter in Daniel Murphy. If you want to get the other half of the lineup, then follow me on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT and send me a message. My lineups are $5 for 1 day, or you can get a week of lineups for $25. So if you're interested in that, then like I said, follow me on Twitter. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed. NBA season is coming to a close, so MLB is going to be getting into full gear in this upcoming week. So we're going to be grinding out videos pretty much every day for the rest of the season. So if this is your first time on my channel, then please be sure to subscribe. We'll be uploading these videos pretty much every day for the rest of the MLB season. So I would appreciate it if you guys would subscribe, and if you never want to miss out on a video, then please be sure to turn on post notifications, click the bell icon next to my YouTube name, and that'll notify you every time I upload. So if you never want to miss out on a video, you can do that as well. I would really appreciate it. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Good luck tonight, guys.